Right. Hey, Mila Falacha, 100,000 welcomes. It's really an honor to be seated here this evening and to be joined by all of you from mostly around the United States, but also from up in Canada and also in Europe. And for those of you who are coming in for the recording later, welcome as well. So I'm very excited to be co-hosting this evening's Winter Solstice and Yule program here with Miss Elizabeth. And we have been having a really lovely time since we first connected earlier in the spring into the summer. And she invited me to be a co-host of a program that she was putting on as a fundraiser for helping reforest parts of Ireland with native hardwood trees. So, Elizabeth, it's an honor to share the floor with you this evening, and I'm really looking forward to the time that we have to share together.
The honor is all mine. And I'm just so honored to be here with each and every one of you. I feel your hearts, all of you who are called to celebrate this night with us. And it's so special to me because for those of you who don't know that much, I don't have a really big family. And so for me, the online community, all of you here, you really are my family. So much of what I do all day is I'm creating. I have these beautiful visions that I want to create things that inspire you and bring more magic into your lives. And so for me tonight, this is like one of my most cherished moments of this holiday season. I'm so deeply honored to be here with each and every one of you.
Thank you. And for myself, I come from a very large family that has a tendency to all gather in large biomass and eat large amounts of food, share lots of laughter, and a lot of beauty. So we have two nice ends of the spectrum here. And one of the things that Elizabeth and I have found really works for us is that we play really well together. We're both Leos in the zodiac, and so we both have a lot of uh, fire and sparks of interest that we're going to bring this evening. But before we open to that deeper spark, I'd like to just make an invitation to everyone to just anchor in ground presence. And part of this is we're all showing up this evening. We've all been doing our things throughout the day. We've been working, we've been traveling, getting ready for the holidays. And so just want to take a moment to bring ourselves into stillness. So as an invitation, I would just like to invite everyone to just close your eyes. Closing your eyes and slowing down the breath. Breathing down into your lower abdomen. Inhaling and exhaling, softening. Breathing in, filling that lower cauldron, the kari, the house of our body temples, current, our farsha, the energy that flows through us, so that when we breathe in and out, we can settle into the abundance and the wholeness of our breath. An invitation, just noticing how your body is pressed against the earth with whatever aspect of the earth is holding you, whether it's a chair or your feet or a floor, the bed. Looks like some of you might be outside. Feeling where your body presses against the earth, makes that contact, physical contact. And as we breathe in and out, filling the lower abdomen, allowing ourselves to be held by those points of pressure where your body is pressed against the earth. And allow just for a moment, if you will, the hearts of Elizabeth and I, and all of those who have gathered here to hold a safe and beautiful container, like a vessel, like a bowl, like a kari, like a cauldron, like a veiled chalice, the Holy Grail, the Holy Grail of your own living sacred blood, the sangria. So let's just breathe into that for a moment, feeling how your body is pressed against the earth and held. And taking a nice deep breath, let's just hold that for a moment. So that when you exhale, you can slowly begin to present yourself back to this circle, back to this vessel, back to this chalice, this grail of a container that we are creating here this evening. Let's breathe in again. And as you exhale, maybe slowly fluttering open your eyes just a little bit, but I highly suggest not looking at the screen straight away. And another nice deep breath. And as you exhale, presencing back to the space that we have to share together. I love midwinter. I love the winter solstice. And I know there's some people on here who are family and some people on here who are friends that have known me for years. And frequently I get called out and say, Jeremy, every season is your favorite. It's true. Every season is my favorite. What I really love is I love the transition, the shift from one part of the wheel to the other and having a moment where we demarcate that, whether that's through spaces such as this, where we have deep sharings, whether it's coming together with family, whether it's large festivals, whether it's music or deep quiet time. However, an expression of transition from one turn of the wheel into the next. It's a time of prayer. It's a time of reflection. It's a time of gratitude. And so this evening, with celebrating this turn of the wheel into the beginning of the window of midwinter here, root of the solstice, there's an invitation to return to grace. And grace has its own word to define our terms here, can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people, just as sacred or um, uh, prayer. But the invitation here is to rest in that place of belonging. Rest in that place of your holy vessel, your holy blood has a very important mission to play in this world in sustaining the dynamic harmonies and the beauty of life. One of the things I love about the solstice is how our ancestors have demarcated this vital, vital time with many of the ancient and sacred megalithic sites all throughout the Northern Isles. How important it was to spend years creating deep chambered cairns of various sizes, from something the size of your house to something the size of a small pyramid, to allow the sunlight to reach its golden arms deep into the dark, dark womb of the earth, and to stir again the seed of life, to stir again the remembrance of a return, of hope, of beauty, and of grace. So it is Elizabeth and I's hope this evening that we can help stir that awakening in all of us, including ourselves, that hunger to rise and meet the beauty of grace and hope and the return to the light half of the year. Because here we are, midwinter, halfway back, halfway back.
I love that. I just feel your Leo heart so strongly. I'm just so ecstatic to be here with everyone. And when Jeremy and I first talked about this event, it was so funny. The image I immediately saw. Hold on, I think someone's not. Mute yourself. Thank
I
you.
got it.
You got it. Thank you, my right-hand man over here. So when we were first talking about this, it was so funny. I instantly had this vision of the Green Man, who's usually associated with spring and rebirth. But I realized, and I think we realized together, that the rebirth, it doesn't just start in the spring. We need this period of stillness because this is where it really starts, right here, right now. And when we talked about like tonight, this idea of return to grace, we both asked ourselves, what does grace really mean? And I can just share for me, it was so funny. Actually, yesterday I had the song Graceland in my head all day. And so I just share that for me, so much of what I teach, I'm also a Grail guardian, custodian. So much of what I want to bring to the world is really about us returning to what Jeremy calls grace, what I really think of more as paradise or Eden. And in the most ancient legends, you'll see that there is an intertwining between the Garden of Eden and the Holy Grail. And we can actually just kind of take a step back and release the biblical connotations and just really go to this energy of paradise. And so I just want to share that when we talk about the Grail legends, the earliest Grail legends, there's paradise and then there is the wasteland. And I just want to speak to my own personal experiences, why this particular element of the Grail story means so much to me. So I've grown up my whole life right outside New York City. And I know firsthand there is a lot of magic in New York City if you know where to look, if you have eyes to see. But if you don't have eyes to see, in general, there's just a lot of concrete. People are really busy. They're pushing each other aside to get where they need to go. There's not much time for spaciousness, for stillness. It's like you have to really go within to find the sacred all around you. And so I share this because I grew up really finding myself in what I felt would be the wasteland. And so in the ancient stories of the Grail, all the stories of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, they are trying to find the Holy Grail to restore paradise, to restore Eden in light of the wasteland that they find themselves in. So we're not going to dive too deeply into that tonight, but I just want to share that for me, when I think of this return to grace, it's very personal. It is deeply connected to the stories of old, but it's just also the way that we live our lives in the here and now. And something I was telling Jeremy yesterday, I had this kind of thing come through. I was doing a meditation and I was thinking about snowflakes because of course it's midwinter. And I was just suddenly thinking that when I was a little girl, I would see snowflakes, the first frost, the first snow, and oh my God, the joy. It would just flood over me in waves. And I was like, oh, the snow. And it was the most magical thing. And I invite all of you, I'm sure each and every one of you has had that moment where you go outside and just so gorgeous and so beautiful, you almost can't believe it. And then little by little, my mother started to get into my head because my mother would not have that reaction. She would see the snow and, oh, I have to go shovel. Oh, I have to go shovel. And I noticed that the joy that I held in my heart of hearts, she did not share when it snowed. So little by little, that joy was dimmed. Like slowly, slowly, slowly to the point where I would see snow and it was just like, oh no, I got a shovel. And I share this because that is something that happens. I know that all of us experience different versions of this, but I actually had to go outside in the snow and actually have this moment of what is my truth? What is my experience in the now moment of this beautiful snow that is falling all around me? And it was just wonder, awe, and
With the
wonder.
longest Hollywood marriages. The last one, no one guessed.
I don't know what that
What
was.
that was all about.
I don't know what that was. Oh my God, that was funny. But anyway, so anyway, let me continue. Bottom line though, I'm just sharing this that in the ancient, this is kind of what's coming through in the ancient like Kabbalistic traditions, when people say like, what is the most sacred experience of life? It is awe and wonder. And so I feel that actually when we're seeing through awe and wonder, we're seeing through the lens of ultimate divine truth. We're really seeing the majesty, the miracle of this place that we find ourselves in. So one thing that I have really come to understand is that paradise, like this whole story of the fall, like it really to me is all about the perception. So much of it is we are now invited to come into this higher knowing, this higher experience of life, to return to see life again through technicolor, to go outside, to be in that space of awe and wonder. And so there's more I could share on this, but I just wanted to really talk about when we put this event together, it was about renewal, it was about rebirth, but it was about a deep inner renewal, a deep inner rebirth. And this rebirthing, it is actually the rebirthing of who you really are. The person, like this divine child, this green man or green woman that lives within you that has never stopped seeing the wonder in all things. So I just really wanted to presence that energy for everyone here tonight.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I think that the other thing that has really come alive for me in recent weeks. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm based in Asheville, North Carolina. And so we just had Hurricane Helene hit, 2 months ago. And the dramatic impact that that had to a lot of our community, to our homes, to the human psyche. It's what it means to all of a sudden have your space not feel as safe as you thought it was, especially in an area that's not prone to hurricanes. And one of the things I think to just kind of like put an end cap on this opening that I feel is really important is when we remember the turning of the wheel, when we remember the seasons and whatever our spiritual, religious, or non-secular and secular experiences are with understanding the patterns and the mysteries of the turning of time, is that there are little micro moments in our everyday lives where we get to also remember these turns. And so I know for myself, after going through a really intense, traumatic geophysical storm event, and for a lot of people in our community, that there's a sense of despair that comes with that. And so with despair, we can either get bowled over, swamped, destroyed, held down, or it becomes a moment to rise up together, or to rise up singularly in our own physical space. So I was reminded over the last 2 weeks how every morning when I get up and I meditate and I pray and I do my yoga or my qigong, that I am taking that opportunity to re-spark that flame, to remember grace so that I can realign, reattune myself to the greater patterns that are at play that I'm in service to. And so we get to do that here together this evening through some of the sharing, through some of the tellings, and the beauty of what unfolds within that context. So one of the things that I would invite, I frequently introduce myself as an applied ecologist because that is my professional background, and I spent a lot of deep time in nature. And thank you, Mom and Dad, for raising me that way. They are also on the call here this evening. I also am an applied mythologist. So where do the stories come to life? Tonight you're going to hear a few tellings that are in respect to the seasons and to the Grail and grace and the return to grace. You're going to hear a strong theme of an old woman, a hag, a Cailleach that becomes a young maiden again. How? My invitation is, how do you connect with the story? Which characters come to life for you? How do they speak? Maybe it's one that you feel really in alignment, like, oh, I'm just like this guy or this gal, or that horse or that rat that ran by in the story, or whatever it might be. Or perhaps you identify or get some things teased out by where the antithesis or the sort of the villain of the story might come in, and how that might be. How does it tease out certain elements that bring you to life? Where do you enter the story? And with that said, I'm going to turn it back over to Elizabeth to tell us a little bit, very briefly, about what she and I are getting into in January.
Oh, okay. Okay, hold on. Let me take a sip of water. I was like, it's story time. And then you're like, oh, wait, no. Okay. So let me just take a sip of water.
Don't
Okay.
forget to
Thank you.
gargle.
So I just want to share anyone who is interested in learning, you're going to experience some really beautiful stories tonight. But if you would like to go deeper and really dive into the legends of the Holy Grail, Jeremy and I are putting together a beautiful 4-week course. It's running throughout the entire month of January. It's called The Healing of the Grail Keepers. And this, like tonight, this is really a preview call. This is a small taste of the magic that you will experience, because this is really about renewal on a soul level. Renewal through the tales and the legends, but also the medicine of coming together in sacred space. And, Jeremy just introduced himself really as an ecologist, and also just like, an expert of like myth and lore. And so we're going to be bringing all of that together. So yes, there will be a lot of sacred storytelling, but we're also going to be looking at our connection to the land. Because when we look at the Holy Grail, it's not just this hyper glorified chalice from legend. Actually, the Holy Grail is inviting us to return to nature, to return to the earth, to take our place as guardians and custodians of this great land. And so this really is the call of the Grail. It is a deep soul calling. And some of you may just be drawn to the class because you want to deepen in the myths and legends, and that's perfect too. But if the Grail is speaking to you, I just want to say that there is a lot of high spiritual initiation that comes with the Grail. It is a vehicle. For me, I have experienced ultimate truth through working with the Grail. One of the ultimate truths being, of course, that everything is love. And I know that we all know that, at least everyone here, I feel like, is very, very spiritual. And on, an intellectual level, we all know that everything is love. But when you deepen into the magic and mysteries of the Holy Grail, you know this on every level of your being. You know this in your heart. You know this in your soul. The Grail works its magic on you, because the Grail really, it is alive. And when I say that, yes, the Grail is about reconnecting to the natural world, it also truly holds high and holy magic. And when you connect with the Grail, you allow it to transform you and to transform your life in ways that you never imagined were possible. And it's through us transforming ourselves within that we create ripples of change, miracles without. And so I'm just really inviting you to understand that this 4-week course, I'm almost getting emotional here, it really is a call of the soul. For those of you called to deepen with the mystery and magic of the Grail, with Celtic legends and lore. And so that starts January 2nd. It's for 4 weeks. It's going to meet every Thursday at 7:30. I can share a link for that, but we'll also talk about it more toward the end of today's call. We just wanted to make sure that we presenced it early, because I know sometimes people have to go and they have to leave. So if this call speaks to you, if something in your soul is nudging you, definitely check out that 4-week course.
And if you're ready to go on a quest, we'll have plenty of quests along the way. But one of the things that I'd like to transition into story is how the journey of life is a quest. And for the last 12 years, as I've been bringing people home to Ireland and following their dreaming, following their ancestral threads, following them back to the places of their ancestral lineage, whether they're still family there or not. One of the beautiful things is, of course, I've been able to dive deeper and deeper into that myself. And so I wanted to start this evening with a very, very personal story, because this is always the best way to go. I think that I saw that there were a few Murphys that had signed up for this program this evening. So Murphys, this is a little bit of a story of some of your distant relatives. And this is the telling of the Beantighe of the Gap of Dunloe. The Gap of Dunloe, far down in the Cailleach, in the Ivernaw Peninsula, in the ancient kingdom of Munster, the southwest of Ireland, the holy summer lands of the Green Isle. The Gap of Dunloe is a long and ancient road that people have been winding up into the mountains in the Cailleach for thousands of years on their way and wandering to the top of Carrauntoohil, the tallest and one of the most sacred mountains in Ireland. Carrauntoohil means the way twisting and unwinding. Well, up through the Gap of Dunloe, all through the ancient forests and woods, there once was a beautiful inn, the Inn of the Gap of Dunloe. And this inn was run by the Murphy family, and it had gorgeous waterfalls running all around it and beautiful ancient trees. You could see the moss dripping down from the oaks. You could see the red berries ripen from the rowans. You could see the ash dripping their heavy branches over the springs and holy wells reaching down towards the grassy verge. And there was a great house filled with the warmth and the nourishment of people who know how to host, like any good Irish soul and spirit, welcoming in those who come in from the cold, that come in from the dark, that come in from the mystery, to find a place by the hearth, to find a place by the fire, to find a warm cuppa in their hand, and perhaps something else to take the nip off a little bit as well. But some years ago, as some of you may know your Irish heritage and ancestry, there was a great famine. Many of our ancestors were starving. They were hungry. They were thin. People were wandering around destitute all across the west of Ireland. And many of them ended up getting on the old ghost ships. The ships that brought many of our ancestors here to North America, to the United States, and to Canada. My ancestors landed in Boston. Some of yours probably landed in Boston, maybe in New York. Some of you are still there in Boston and New York. Some of us made our ways west, but that is not where our story is focused today. Because somehow in the stitching and the weaving and the remembrance of ancestry and listening to dreams, our Irish ashlingi, the dreams that carry us forward, I was brought to the Gap of Dunloe almost 200 years after it had been abandoned so that the Murphy family could make their way to St. Louis. Now, mind you, for those of you who have spent time in Ireland, or perhaps call Ireland home yourself, or perhaps will make your way there one day, you might be used to many abandoned old buildings, stones, and bones of the dreams of our forefathers and mothers, left abandoned high in the hills, high in the moorlands, along the coastal ways. And many of them have their own stories, but many of them are forgotten. So tonight's short here is a sharing of that forgotten story of one such place. And this is very personal because this is tied to my own journey of following and dreaming. I had just completed a crucial journey, a mission with about 11 women, and all of them had left our time together in Ireland and were making their way back to the States and Canada and to Germany. And I was still with 3 really dear friends who had also been on that on that trip. And we made our way up into the Gap of Dunloe, and it's pouring down rain. And I found myself getting out of the car, wandering around the hills, following a feeling, following a dream, following a trail of a ghost, perhaps, that went before me. An Ashling. And this Ashling brought me to an old rundown, well, we already got there. The old rundown inn high in the mountains with the waterfalls in the background. And there was a gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous oak out in the front. So as I made my way around the oak, I looked through one of the windows and I saw, oh, there's a way to get in. So I made my way into the inn and closed my eyes, and I could just almost hear the laughter and hear the crackling of the fire in the hearth as more turf was being put on, as it was mixed with the wood that was gathered from around beneath the fallen branches. Listening and watching, time disappears. But what I found more than anything was that as time disappeared, the body starts to speak. I'm uncomfortable. My body's been sitting in this strange position for some time, although it has kept me mentally alert. I have to go to the bathroom. So I wandered outside, wondering, gosh, where do you go to the bathroom here? And then, of course, I'm wandering around the old lay of the whole grounds, and I can see the old stables in the back and the old guest quarters off to the side near the stream. And I could see some strange building off in the woods. So I wound my way off to see this strange building in the woods. And lo and behold, this strange building in the woods was not in the woods. It was a small building built over the stream with stone steps going up to it, the size of an outhouse. And I thought, wow, these guys were just going to the bathroom right over the stream. Ecologist lights are going off. I'm like, I cannot believe the audacity of these people just having all their guests do their business right into the stream. And then, of course, the people right downstream have to deal with it. I heard a voice. Who are you to judge? I turned around and there is no one there. I was like, all right, maybe this is just in my head. Ooh, no. Who are you to judge? So I turn again, there's no one there, but this time remembering previous experiences with things that tend to stitch their way between both worlds, I turned slowly back towards the stream, and in my periphery, I saw an old woman, all in white. And so I had to stand sideways so I could still see her. And I said, well, don't you think it's a little strange that people are going to the bathroom right into the stream? It's polluting this pure mountain water for everyone else to use. And so we got into this great debate about the utilization of water and keeping it clean so that other people can take it. And so in this starts arising this sense of responsibility and the sense of like, oh, I got to tell someone how better to do the thing, to being told that it's not my business. But after a while, we had gotten past the initial debate and argument, and she says to me, why don't you come in for a cuppa? I said, all right. So I made my way back into the inn. And of course, I can't see her anymore, but I have to kind of sit by one of the windows so that I can just be present with, again, being in this household. And I asked her who she was. She said, I'm the Beantighe of this house. So many people might be familiar with the Banshee from the Irish traditions. The Banshee, the wild woman of the hills, the ancient feminine spirit, Bon, woman, Ti, Bon, she, woman, immortal, Bon, Ti, woman, house. The Bontees were the housewomen. They were the spirits that helped to tend the fires, to make sure that things were swept up, to make sure that milk was set out for the old ones, to make sure that the crucifix was straightened once again, just so over the bed, to make sure the Bridget's cross wasn't getting too moldering from the smoke in the cottage over the door into the entryway. The Bontee. I said, well, you don't have anyone to take care of anymore. And she said, no, I don't have anyone to take care of that anymore. That's why I've gotten so withered and old. And I said, well, I've got a house and hearth. I've got land with lots of trees and waterfalls. You could come home with me. You could take care of the hearth at my house. And she said, do you have cheese? Oh, yes, we have cheese. Do you have milk? Oh, yes, we have milk. Do you have ishkabaha? No, we're a dry house. We don't have any of that sort of thing. However, if you need a little bit, we can get some and set it aside for you. Don't need it anymore anyway. But then I had to really think, now how am I going to get this Bonti to come home with me? And so some of you might be familiar with talismans. So a true talisman is something that you not only obtain as a sacred gift or a sacred item, but it's also something that carries its own spirit. It carries something that allows you to convey, and this spans all religious traditions. And right as I thought that, I kicked something, I looked down, and on the ground, there was this perfect horseshoe. Wait. I sit with her every day. So this is the horseshoe that I found in the Gap of Dunloe. And so I invited her to become an embodiment in this horseshoe. And right as I invited her to do that, I saw the old woman become the most radiant, golden young woman. And the essence of her came into this horseshoe, and she has been helping to tend our hearth in the last 10 years since. And she really likes tending the hearth in our sauna out on the land. The Bonti of the Gap of Dunloe, like many beings, when we are forgotten, we get low. The Bonti of Dunloe, when her people leave and that sense of place and home are forgotten and neglected, some spirit of place becomes decrepit, becomes twisted and out of place. Just like people, the angels, the divine, the spirit of place would like to be honored, revered, blessed, connected with, renewed, just as we need to renew every day, remembering the beauty of grace that flows through us. And that is the end of my short telling here. And I'll turn it over to Elizabeth.
Thank you. That was so beautiful. I love that you had the horseshoe. I almost wanted to cry out. I was like, wait, no. I just was so excited when you had it. I'm just really feeling the power, the impact. I think it's so wonderful that, that sentiment is so true when people are forgotten, when they don't feel they have any use or any place in the world. It's like they lose who they are. And there's something about, the horseshoe containing the essence of her, because it doesn't matter if we have something to do on the deepest level, it's the energy, like it's our very beingness. That's what's so sacred. So I love that. And I just felt such I want to just like presence your role really as a divine masculine. And I'm sharing this because I feel like you have the ears to hear, you have the sensitivity that when you heard that voice, like, who are you to judge? That you actually, instead of being like, okay, so, some strange lady must live here. I don't know if she's from this world or the other world, but I'm going to get out of here. Instead, you actually stopped and you listened and you really saw her. And not just you saw her, you heard her. And I think that's just something so beautiful that you honored. You really honor these beings of the other world. And I feel like I think so many of us, we are looking for examples of that. We are looking for people who still remember and honor the old ways. I just really want to just shine a light presence you for actually taking the time to not just see, but to listen and to hear.
Well, and hopefully what that is also an invitation for anyone to track when they're hearing spirit move through them, but to do it in a respectful way, to do it in a
Mm.
respectful way, both for your own body and temple and as well for the people around you. Someone in the chat just asked if she had a name. She does have a name. Her name is Anya, and Anya has many different aspects in throughout the various cycles of Irish mythology. One of those being she's considered to be the queen of the She, the Rina She of Munster, and also therefore the sovereign goddess of Munster in the ancient times. But I have always known her more as the White Lady. And typically she becomes most manifest to me watching cascades, waterfalls, white water. And that's where I hear her song the most.
I love that. I know that I'm supposed to tell a story next. But I'm just curious if my internet connection is good. Can everyone like is it lagging a little bit?
Seems like it's fine.
It's fine. Okay. I just was like, I know I have a story to tell, but I want to make sure everyone can receive the magic of it. But yes, I want to say I'm so glad I did not know her name was Anya. And I love that because again, like the theme so much of tonight really is this energy of rebirth. It is, that old woman becoming young again. It is I feel like this harkens on a bigger theme, which is the fact that life is eternal. Even when we see things withering and decaying, even that is an illusion. And so, even in that seed, even in something that is withering and decaying, lies the potential for new life. And not just lies the potential that new life is guaranteed. And so I think when we really connect with the power, the majesty of life itself, I really feel like that's a divine feminine principle of life. It's regeneration. And when we really connect with that as an energy, just wow, just miracles happen. So without further ado, I will tell my story. So we're moving a little bit away. We're actually leaving Ireland for a moment and we're heading more into, I don't even want to call it England because it really is a time before. This would be around 500 AD, kind of in the area of what we would call today Avalon. So I want you to really just kind of go back in time. We're going to hear the day. This is a story of Gawain the Knight. He is actually the nephew of King Arthur. And this is a story of Ragnell. So many of you may have heard of this woman. I'm going to go into the story. I don't want to give too much away just like right now, but really remember this theme of regeneration. And also, I just am so excited to tell a King Arthur story. And so for me, I love the story. This is a story of heroism. This is a story really of honoring the sovereignty of woman, the sovereignty of the land, and this divine feminine principle that is really woven into all the stories that we're sharing here tonight. So, once upon a time, I'm just going to say England for lack of a better word, but once upon a time, about 1500 years ago, in the days of Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, there was one knight trusted above all others. This was the knight Gawain. This was Arthur's nephew, he who was noble and pure of heart, he who loved Arthur like no other. And on this day, Gawain was actually hunting in the woods. Arthur was looking for a deer, a very, very special deer that had eluded him for many an hour. He went deeper and deeper into these immortal woods. These were great woods of the other worlds. And this deer, he followed it deeper and deeper into the forest until he lost all of his men, and it was just him. He fired arrow after arrow until he had but one left in his quiver. He fired the last arrow. He saw the deer, this magnificent, beautiful, glorious being. And in that moment, the deer surrendered to the great king. The arrow struck true. And Arthur, feeling victorious, feeling still as he walked toward the deer, great reverence and respect and love for all of life, he came upon the deer. And then he heard behind him thump, 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 footsteps in the distance. And he recognized these footsteps, for this was someone he knew very well. This was a great man, Sir Gromer. And this man was not one that was Arthur's friend. In fact, we would go so far to say he was one of Arthur's great enemies. He said, Arthur, I have waited so long to catch you alone, to find you here. Arthur sees that he has no way to defend himself against this mortal enemy. He says, if you kill me now, it is dishonorable, for I have not even a single arrow nor blade to defend myself. If you should kill me now, you will be admitted in no courts. No one will speak highly of you. You will lose all honor. And so he thinks about this for a moment, for he doesn't really want to lose favor. He doesn't want to lose honor and admission to all the courts. So Sir Gromer finally turns to Arthur and he says, I see what you've done. How about this? This way I keep my honor. I will give you a riddle instead. If you cannot answer this riddle in a year's time, then I may dispose of you. But if you can answer this riddle, for none alive, no man alive knows the answer to this, but you, Arthur, you are the great king, wisest, noblest of all. Surely you can find the answer to this riddle. So this moment, Arthur knows that this is his one shot. So he agrees. He says, all right, tell me, what is the riddle? And the man says, what do women desire above all else? That's the riddle, Arthur says. Yes. Answer me that. Come back to this very spot in a year and a day. Give me the answer, and I will spare your life, or else I will take it. Do we have an agreement? And at this, Arthur shook his hand and said, aye, you do. Arthur returned back into the woods, trying to find his men. There was something of a melancholy in his heart, for he knew that this answer, even though it seemed like such a simple question, it plagued him. There was something about it he could not understand, something he could not put his finger on. He didn't tell any of the men who finally were like, the king has returned, the king has returned. They cajoled, they were so happy and triumphant to see him again with the deer that he had brought with them. And yet, this melancholy ate at his heart. And it was the one, his nephew Gawain, who knew Arthur well enough to know that something was the matter. Great uncle, he said, I know all the men look to you, and they see nothing wrong. But I am not like them. I know your heart of hearts, and I know that something is deeply wrong. Will you not tell me? Will you not trust me with whatever it is that ails you? And at this, Arthur, looking into the eyes of his nephew with such love, confesses, this is what happened. This is the man I met in the woods. This is what I promised. This was the oath I swore. I must find the answer to this great riddle. And Gawain says, we have a year and a day. We will ask every man and woman. We will find the answer. We will find it. How hard could that be? We will compare. We will know what is it that women truly want. And so for a whole year, Gawain and Arthur searched far and wide. What could the answer be? What do women really want? They asked all different people. Some said women most want to be beautiful. Others said that women most want to find a good husband. Still others said that women just want to be left alone, left to themselves. But none of that felt quite right. And this question, it ate away at Arthur's heart for a year until finally there was one day until he was to return to the woods and meet with Sir Gromer, to meet and face his end, to face his doom. And he's going there. He goes to these immortal ancient woods of the other world. He's getting ready to go and meet, he's going to meet his death with honor because he is Arthur, noblest of them all, the greatest king who ever lived. And as he goes into the woods, still a day out from finding Sir Gromer, there is suddenly a great and glorious white horse that appears. And on this horse, you would not believe the grotesque woman that rested upon it. Her face was red, her eyes, they seemed to be bloodshot. Her teeth were overdrawn like beavers. Her hair was all a wreck. She was shaped almost like a barrel, and yet when he saw her, something in his very blood stood still. He stopped. "Wait, Sir King," she said. And he stopped. "Can I help you?" he said. "Can I help you?" "Ah, no, it is I who can help you," she said. "For you need the answer to a riddle, and I am the only one alive, the only woman on this earth who has the true answer to your riddle." Arthur looks at her. "I have traveled for a year and a day seeking the answer. How is it that you know?" She says, "Because it is I. I am the one. I know this answer. But for me to tell it to thee, for me to tell you, there is something I require. I must be wed. I must be married to Sir Gawain himself. For this, I will give you the answer you seek, that your life may be spared." And at this, Arthur looks at her and he almost cannot bear, because he sees the red skin, he sees the wrinkles, the years, the aged look upon upon her face. He feels he cannot do this to his young nephew who he loves more than life itself. And yet, here she is with the answer to the riddle. He goes back to Gawain, tells him what has happened, tells him what this hag has said. Gawain, without so much as a second thought, says, "If she has the answer, if this will spare your life, then I will marry her at once. Bring her here, host a banquet, call everyone. I will marry her here and now today, in front of all in this kingdom, that you, great king, you, my beloved uncle, may go free." And so at this, there is a great wedding, there is a great feast. And Gawain is very courteous to this woman who moves, even the way she moves, there's a sense of the ancient world within her. She moves so slowly, and yet Gawain shows her not the faintest bit of repulsion, not the faintest bit of pity. Instead, he treats her as if she was the most beautiful bride he had ever seen. He treats her with love, honor, respect, and kindness. And it is the next day that they are to go into the woods to say the answer to the riddle. And as they are going, they go to the woods. They go to the woods to tell this evil man Grover the answer to the riddle. They get to the woods, they approach. Grover is there waiting, for he thinks that no one can possibly answer this. But there Ragnell comes, and she has whispered the answer in Arthur's ear. The answer is sovereignty. That is what women desire above all else. That which men have and take for granted, sovereignty. The ability to move through the world freely, to create life on one's own terms, to live as we desire. He comes to Sir Gromer in the woods and says, "The answer, my lord, is sovereignty." At this, Sir Gromer rages, for he cannot believe. How can you know this? How have you discovered the answer to the riddle? He lets Arthur go. He lets Arthur go. The king is spared. But now we return to the story of Gawain and Ragnell, for it is now their wedding night. And Gawain, as he did at the day of the wedding, he goes to her and he's going to give her all the rights of someone who is to be his bride, who is to be his wife. And as he goes to lay down beside her, all of a sudden she transforms into the most glorious, beautiful woman you have ever seen, with hair as gold as the sun, eyes as radiant as the moon, lips as deeply red as the rose. And she is just the most beautiful vision, the most beautiful thing he has ever seen. And he suddenly starts and he's like, oh, who are you? And she says, I am your wife. I am Ragnell. He says, but before you were a hag, you were a crone. What has happened? And he said, and she says to him, this was a curse that was placed on me. This was a curse. And so you, by marrying me, you have broken part of the curse. So now I give you something to choose. I can be this beautiful woman either by day, and I can go with you to the court, and I can be with you, admired by all, and then return to the crone at night. Or I can be beautiful by night, be this for you every night, and then go to court with you as the crone, as the hag that you married. What do you choose, Sir Gawain? For I can be either of these things. Gawain looks at her, his heart full of longing and love, a love that is deeper than life itself. And he says, I cannot pick this, good woman. I cannot pick this, my beloved bride, my wife. It is you. You must choose. And at this moment, there is suddenly a flash of great light. The curse, the spell is broken. And this woman, Ragnell, suddenly she says to him, it is done because you let me choose, because you gave me my own sovereignty. The curse, the spell is broken, and I will be this beautiful maiden always. And at that, Gawain embraces her, kisses her. He cannot believe his good fortune, his good luck. He takes her out, and everyone in the kingdom celebrates this beautiful couple, this beautiful bride, this beautiful marriage, this renewal, this triumph of good over evil. And so that is the end of today's telling. I wanted to share because there is just something so pure, so beautiful in the story. Jeremy, I'm wondering if you have any reflections, anything. Also, anyone in the audience, even if they want to put anything in the chat, how that story landed for them.
Thank you for sharing. That is one of my favorite Grail tellings. And I love your delivery of it. Yeah, so well done.
I was getting a little tired at the end. Like, we've got to get to the bedchamber. That's the most important part.
Yeah, but sovereignty. What a gorgeous, gorgeous key.
And I love that because I really feel like it kind of it's almost like what we're saying here tonight, really this thread of the divine feminine. Because your story with that, I think of her as almost like Cailleach type woman, like the woman that is now with you in the horseshoe. I just feel like there's something here about the old made new again, that we might see someone as like, oh, this person, like they have grown old in years. And yet at the same time, doesn't matter how old I get, because like my heart is still like my 5-year-old heart, my 6-year-old heart. And
Yeah.
there's just something about that cannot be extinguished. The old is new, the even, and I just want to share, this is funny because I'm sure all of us here, because I personally believe that many of us, I think that we have many lifetimes. I have seen little kids be wise beyond their years, have wisdom that they should not possibly possess. And so I just say the old, the young, the old, they are but one in this, this eternal cycle of renewal. And so I really feel that here with the story.
I think the beauty of sovereignty really ties back into how we set the table for this evening as well, which is those moments like this turning in the year, like those moments of rising each day to meet the weight of the world and to rise up through it. We are remembering that place of sovereignty within ourselves and thus able to step out with the fire in the heart, or as the Irish would say, with the imbas, the fire in the head, or as they would say in Wales, the hawen, the illumination that comes through. Such a gift, such a gift, and it's an important thing to cultivate because Sir Gawain could have turned from the hag and just said, "All right, I'll do the thing," but it's from that sense of doing what was right, doing
Mm.
what was highest in respect to all beings and the land. For in the ancient tales, of course, the king, the sovereign, the representative between the sacred earth and the people, the go-between between the divine feminine of the earth that's holding us and nurtures us, and as a figurehead or as the pillar, as the rod that aligns or realigns the light and the illumination through into the earth, as well as help to transmute that over into the other world. And so what a gift to have your right hand person, your right hand man, to be able to step up and recognize the importance of duty. And I think where that ties in to my own life and to many of our lives is knowing those moments where we need to step up and do something, even if it doesn't make sense on paper, or even if some part of our mind is fighting it, but doing what we know is right and following that and trusting in that, having faith in that. Not to say we always get the reward, but there is a sense of honor and duty that is really conveyed through that telling.
And I think that's one of the reasons why I like this story so much because so many like times when we talk about Grail stories, it's almost endless. There is no reward at the end. And yet in this story, Gawain acts like from a place of pure nobility, pure heart and soul, devotion to Arthur, devotion to the king, and also devotion to the feminine, regardless of appearances. He still is in deep respect, deep reverence of the feminine, deep honoring of the woman he takes to be his bride. And I feel that in that experience, that's something that we can all look to, that when we actually step on that path, we can open to rewards. I think that's something I kind of want to challenge. I just want to share. There's like a little bit like there is another version of the story that says that Ragnell, the hag who becomes the beautiful woman, after 5 years, something happens to her, she dies, and Gawain spends the rest of his life mourning her. But I don't believe this story. I don't believe this part of the story. And I think because when this was told, I think it was too dangerous to the public to have, wait, a woman in sovereignty? Oh my God, we can't let her live. We have to get this part out of the story. So even though she was allowed to have that sovereignty, it's like, oh, but 5 years later she passes, Gawain mourns her for the rest of time. I don't believe this is true. And I want to share this because it was very interesting. This past summer, I was in Northern Ireland and I had heard so many stories of Goddess Macha. And I won't go into all the stories of Macha because that would take us down a whole rabbit hole. But in the main version of the story that I was told, Macha dies at the end. She dies at the end of the story. And, when I spoke to people in Northern Ireland, and this is a story that comes from Northern Ireland, they were like, what? Macha doesn't die? She doesn't she goes to the other world with her two children. She doesn't die. They're telling people that Macha died. And I share this because I think that this was part of the patriarchal agenda, for lack of a better word, because for women to hold that kind of sovereignty, for them to hold that kind of power, it was too dangerous for them to be alive. It's almost like they had to kill them off in the stories. So I want people here to dare to believe that once upon a time is possible, that having rewards for being noble and pure of heart, that is not just possible, that is your divine birthright. And
Mm,
that's why I love this story so much.
thank you. And so want to pivot a little bit here. And well, maybe we should do a a crowd source here. Does everybody open for another story? Hands up if your video's on. You guys want to hear another story?
We have another story. Jeremy has another story.
Another story? All right.
We don't want to overload you.
All right. So I'm really excited to share in this particular telling. This is a telling that comes again from the Irish and the Scottish tradition. As far as we know, the first time this story was taken down from the oral tradition was in 1860 by a man named J.F. Campbell. He took it down in the Western Isles, but it's also because Scotland and Ireland once were so politically and economically tied long ago before the advent of the separation. Well, that's a whole nother story. So this is the story of Nian Rihin. And Nian Rihin is also in English is the daughter of the king under the waves. And so from the ancient telling, this is a Finian tale. So Finian tales were right when the mythological cycle was starting to bump into the early Christian era. So these are the Finn McCool tales. These are the tales of Oisin, who was, of course, the last of the Fianna, who helped to carry the stories over from the old ones over to St. Patrick and to the early Christian Green Martyrs and the wild ones of the west of Ireland and Scotland. The rendition that I have been most influenced by, however, is by Ella Young. And Ella Young is probably one of my favorite of the Twilight authors. Yes, even more so than William B. Yeats. Yeats works amazing art, but Ella Young. Oh, if you don't know Ella Young's works, look her up. She's got most of her publications were in the early 1900s. So, of course, that's when the Celtic Twilight was most active, and then as a spark, a flame for what allowed the Republic of Ireland to reclaim its heritage. So the king under the wave, or the daughter of the king under the wave. And so for those of you who are here for our Grove Solstice gathering this past Saturday, you're going to hear a wholly different telling than what we gave last Saturday. So this should be fun. So you know the Fianna. The Fianna loved to hunt. The Fianna loved to fight. The Fianna loved to play. And they spent much of their time romping in the forests of the west of Ireland, down in the south of Ireland, in the mountains, all across the great and rolling limestone hills. And they loved to hunt. They loved to hunt the boar. They loved to hunt the stag. They loved to hunt the bear, and sometimes to chase down the wolf, but the favorite was the boar. And they had been out in the west of Connacht for days pursuing this great golden boar. And they pursued this great boar across the fjords that separate the west of County Mayo with Achill Islands. And they had been wandering, hungry, tired, and no, not like Arthur. They didn't have any magic arrows still left in their quivers. They were still using spears because that's the only way that you hunt properly in Ireland. And so they were left out there wandering around in Achill Island. And a great storm blew up as it was getting dark. The winds were howling, the trees were bending, rain was pelting down, their cloaks were soaked, their beards were soaked, their long golden locks were dripping. They could have started growing moss, for all we know. When Conan, one of the Fianna, he looked down and he said, "Hey, this place looks familiar, lads. We were here last year, and there was a storm that came last year at this time too. If I recall, just down these steep cliffs, there's a little stone hut, some old hermit's hut." And so they wound their way down. And for those of you who know Achill Island, you might have done the long trek over the moors and the bogs to Lake Nacharogue. This is the same lake that the children of Lear spent their last 300 years as swans before they transformed back into their normal forms again. And so Oisin and Conan and Finn and Diarmid, they made their way down through the forest and through the ferns and through the wind and through the storm and got to the door, slid aside the latch that keeps it closed, burst their way in, pressed it closed, threw in everything they could to get it locked down. The winds are pressing at the doors, they're rattling the windows, it's shaking. But they're inside, dripping. They could hear outside, just like those of you here in West North Carolina a couple of months ago. They could hear the winds howling, trees cracking. They could hear the streams rising, great rivers of melt and filth and stones washing by. Like, oh, this is a night of the Gawain and Ragnell. This is the night of the wind fairies. This is the night of the old ones. We better get a fire started. Well, of course, Finn had his magic sticks. Now, for those of you who have spent time in the bush with me, we know those are just called friction sticks for making friction fire, but they're magic sticks. And so they took these magic sticks and rubbed them together. And as they're rubbing them together, Oisin started to sing this little incantation. Oh, golden bird, oh, hawk of the sun, shake loose a feather of flame. And he kept saying it again and again and again. And finally, a fire ignited in the hearth. And of course, like any good hermit's lodge, there's a nice stash of turf and a nice stash of wood set to either side. And so they are able to build up the fire, and meanwhile the winds are howling and ripping at the turf and ripping at the thatch on the roof. Conan and Oisin brought up a couple of benches and set them down really close to the hearth fire. They all kind of crowded around. They hung their cloaks up. They're dripping. You can imagine that sound of the dripping water onto hard, packed floor. Not able to soak quite into that packed earth. But it gets slippery. And things do get slippery when you've got four lads who are hungry and have been in the forest for a really long time trying to hunt something they cannot bring down. Conan said, I think I just saw a face in the window. Finn's like, oh, Conan, you are always seeing things. Just let's just be here by the fire and stay warm. And all of a sudden, there's a rap at the door. Don't open it. We know this is a night of the Queen of She. Don't open the door. Diarmid was a fine lad. Diarmid had learned all of his manners from his mother, kind of like I did. Thanks, Mom. Learned all his manners from the mother. You do not leave someone out in the cold and in the rain. We are Irish. We take care of our own. Coming. Diarmid made his way to the door, and he's just getting ready to slide the bar to the side, and the door bursts open. And he flies back, and the rain's howling in, the river starting to come in the front door and sliding across that hard-packed earth. There's this old woman. She looks like a tree. Her fingers are long, her fingernails are curled, her eyes are bloodshot. She hobbles her way in with her blackthorn cane. And Conan and Finn run behind her and slam the door shut and close, and meanwhile the storms outside are lashing away at the cottage. And Conan, of course, is now hiding in the corner behind the turf. Oisin, he's over humming little incantations to himself. This isn't happening. This isn't happening. Or maybe it was something a little richer. I am here. Welcome to our house. Welcome to our home. Welcome to our hospitality. But Diarmid, being the fine gentleman he was, who learned all of his manners from his mom. Thanks, Mom. Invited her to have the best seat in front of the hearth. Took her cloak, hung it up on one of the remaining pegs over by the turf. Sorry, Conan. And allowed her to start warming herself. But in the light of the fire, you could see her veins and the redness of her eyes. And that sometimes she must have an itch because there were these scratches on her face from those long, twisty, curly fingernails. And there was so much water shedding off of her that the water was fizzling out the fire, and they were constantly having to blow on it and fan it and put more fuel on the fire. Damn it! I'm still cold! You could put some more wood on the fire if you stop dripping everywhere. I'm cold. Sit next to me. Sit next to me. Okay. Okay, Mom. You taught me to be polite to everyone. All right, all right, all right. So he sat down next to the old woman, and he pressed his shoulder up against hers. Okay, he put his arm around her just to try to help her keep some of her body heat in. Everybody know about that spot right beneath where your shoulders and your neck come together? You can put your hand there, and no matter how cold you are, helps to warm you up really quickly. Well, he's helping her to do that. Well, some people really, really, really overstay their hospitality. She said, "Damn it. I think I'd be warmer if you kissed me." We've got good hospitality. All right. All right. I don't know if Mom would agree with this, but okay, I will kiss the old woman. So we kissed the old woman. Damn it, my love. I'm still cold. Make love to me. The storm outside is raging. The windows are shaking. The door's rattling in its hinges. Conan, Finn, O'Sheen. We gotta go check on something outside. Out the door they go. Door slams behind them. Diarmid laid down his cloak. And well, this is rated PG-13, so we're going to stop here. But what I will say is that after he provided the best hospitality that a gentleman could, they fell asleep in each other's arms. And in the morning, a curlew called from down by the sea and woke Diarmid. And he sat up, and his hazel eyes looked out the window, and he looked down at the old woman covered with the cloak. Some things that we have to do to maintain our sense of sovereignty and to serve that which is greater than ourselves, what we can go through. And he put another piece of turf on what was left of the fire to help warm up the room a little bit, and went to go call the lads when he heard some very gentle, muffled breathing. And he looked over, and there the Cailleach, the old woman, sat up. And she wasn't old. Surprise, surprise. That's our theme tonight. She was absolutely emanating the most deep otherworld beauty. Diarmid, my name is Iffy. I'm the daughter of Manon and McClare. I'm the daughter from under the sea, and for the last 7 years, no one has invited me in to warm myself by their fire. For the last 7 years, I have been held beneath storm, and my mind and my heart have been ravaged. And you have seen true. Thank you. Now you can imagine all the good parts there. Of course, yes, they're going to get married. There's going to be all sorts of glorious things that she bestows on him. But the most important thing is that they rose together, hands, fingers intertwined, hearts bound as one, stepped out barefoot onto the high moors, rolling around Achill Island, looked out across Loch Nacaro, looked out across the Atlantic, and watched the sun come up over the mountain behind their backs, and watched the mist of the sea as it drifted through their hair, and they allowed their hearts to be illumined. And so the telling of the daughter of the king under the sea. I think one of the most important things in remembering these tales, especially in this telling, which comes, of course, from Connacht and from County Mayo, specifically Achill Island, is the renewal of the spirit of the land. Again, we've spoken to that, but I think I spoke about William B. Yeats earlier, and he was, of course, beyond his poetry, spent a lot of time writing plays. And one of his plays is a modern rendition of this very telling. It's the telling of Kathleen na Houlihan. And Kathleen na Houlihan is like is a symbolic, is the symbolic essence of the spirit of Ireland. Is Kathleen na Houlihan, that the Celtic Twilight and that the Republicans who are seeking to gain back the liberation, the sovereignty of Ireland from England, that gave them the power to do that. And so in that tale, we have the same thing unfolding where an old woman comes to call. Except now in this time, the call is a call to all the young men and women to rise up, a call to all the young men and women to do what needs to be done in order to protect our sovereignty. So the invitation, I think, again, here this evening is here at Winter Solstice, here at Midwinter, here at the Yule, to take that time to recognize, what do you serve? And what do you stand for? What is the sovereignty that you're holding within the container of the vessel of the very grail that is your holy blood, that is the blending together of all your ancestors that have gone before you, both the good and the bad, those who have lived as inspiring, aspiring, benevolent, gorgeous lives, and for those who did not make such great choices. And yet, each moment we are given choices on how we show up for the Cailleachs in our own life, for the storms in our own life. But my invitation goes beyond just the service of self, that goes to the service of the greater whole. It goes to the service of this phenomenal Garden of Eden that we get to call home. This phenomenal place that we have been asked to steward. My hope is that in your own way, you can find that fire, that imbas of the mind, so that when you rise to meet your own dark, twisted shadows that present themselves, that you can find the illuminator way to embrace and help that to transform into the true beauty that it's trying to bring your attention to. And so with that, I'm going to close and say thank you. I know some of you needed to go at 9, but we have lots of other fun to share with you all this evening. So if you have the time, I ask you to stick around, because there's a very couple things that we want to do. One, we want to give everybody an opportunity to share any reflections that you have. And then also, Miss Elizabeth is also going to guide us through a pathworking as well, if that is in the lifeline. So thank you very much. And I do want to open the floor. Well, actually, Elizabeth, is there anything you want to reflect before we open the floor to everyone else?
I tried so hard not to laugh. That story. I was like, oh wait, I'm not muted. I have to hold it in. That was amazing. That was just so wonderful. I just love, it was just like the hospitality. And one thing that I noticed was a thread, whether it was like King Arthur, Sir Gawain, or it was like this like Irish tradition of hospitality, is that there is right action. There is it's almost like an unspoken knowing of the right way for human beings to relate, to honor and respect each other. And I think, this is just a bit of a tangent, but when we look at, we have like the law, wherever, you are coming from, whatever country you are here coming from. I know most of the audience here is from the United States. We have the law, but actually, I really feel that it is us as human beings who have our honor codes. We're the ones who we are really called in this moment to ask ourselves what is right and true to us. How do we really hold ourselves in right relationship with all of nature, with our friends, our family? And I think sometimes I can just speak for myself. When I hear more of these ancient traditions of hospitality, they hit me more deeply. I feel like there is something in them. There is this energy of honor. There is just something in them that we are once more reminded that we can engage with each other through this very heart-centered, like non-negotiable sense of honor. And I just really felt that in your story. So I want to thank you for that.
And I'm glad that you laughed. One of the things, so the Irish word for lore keeper or storyteller is Seanachie. And the Seanachies as keepers, I've spent a lot of time with Seanachie, mostly in Munster and Connacht, because that's in the west of Ireland. There's a lot more of the old traditions. However, there's a lot of phenomenal Seanachie in Dublin, of course, because it's just the epicenter of where so many amazing things are happening. But one of the things that several Seanachie said to me over the last 3 or 4 years when we've gathered up in Sligo is that, you know, Americans take these stories too seriously. Because if you can't laugh and you can't cry, well, certainly you're not the one playing the old harp of song, the harp of the Dagda, if you will, the harp that draws forth the weeping, that draws forth the deep sleeping, and that draws forth the outrageous laughter. And it's been beautiful to really receive that permission to step into the accented, exaggerated aspect of being and of a telling.
Yeah, no, I think you did a phenomenal job. I'm not sure if anyone in the audience, if you guys have any reflections on the story Jeremy just told or any of the stories that we have told tonight. This is the moment. If you want to put in the chat, we would love to hear if there was one that really struck your heart, something that really resonated. Because no, Jerry, I agree. It's so funny. I have this with friends and family too. They'll watch a movie on television, they'll take it so seriously. This would never happen in real life. Why would they? It's because you don't need to take it so seriously. It's a story. That's the magic of it. And so I always say this, and this is like a silly thing, but when people say, oh, something is make believe, I say, actually, it's make believe because it makes you believe. So I just put that out there. And Jeremy, I just agree so much. I've noticed, because I know you and I are both writers, I think it's actually easier to make someone cry than it is to make them laugh. I think to
Mhm.
actually make someone laugh, to actually fill their heart with joy, that really, you have to be coming from a much higher frequency, a much higher energy to bring that out. And that really, to me, that is the realm of the gods. That is the realm of divine inspiration. What is that thing within us that makes us laugh? What is that unspoken mechanism? To me, it is the only word for it is divine. When you really
Mhm.
sit for a second, ask yourself that question, where does laughter come from? The only answer is the divine. It is the divine within you. And I feel when we sit around together, especially at Yuletide, we listen to these stories, we are really inviting the divine within us to weep, to laugh, to cry, to come together, to have this beautiful human experience. And I feel one of the highest human experiences is that of laughter. And I think for so many of us, that is the medicine that, our souls are looking for.
I think one of the things I saw in the chat, someone mentioned just like the experiencing the gorgeous hospitality of the Irish people. And I
Mm.
really cannot speak any like I'm looking at some of the people that are gathered here, and I see at least 3 or 4 people who walked across Ireland with me last year. Gina, River, mom and dad, a few other folks. Like, we walked just across the latter half. We're walking across the whole thing this coming summer, but we started at Rathcrowan, the sacred center of Connacht, all the way out to Croagh Patrick. And the way we were embraced by the people in the west of Ireland was just gorgeous. The music, the songs, the heart telling. And yes, there's some economic exchange, but the most important thing is they want to hear our stories and they want to tell their stories to us. Like, how many people along that walking pilgrimage were spent hours with farmers learning about the fairy fort that was on their land, or the standing stone, or the way they milked their cows, or come on in for a cup of tea. Classic, true, pure, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I'm so grateful that we get to connect with that part of our ancestry and our heritage, and to come home and bring some of that fire with us. And so, yes, again, thank you, everyone. So very welcome here. And I hope that we get to connect with you again at some point. If anyone is interested in sticking around for a little bit more so we can go into some other beauty together, or you're interested in the class that Elizabeth and I are going to be offering for the month of January, please stick around. Otherwise, everyone else, I want to just say, Slán Vela, have a beautiful, beautiful rest. May this next week of holidays, family time, lone time, whatever it looks like for you, give you the nourishment that you need so that you can rise and embrace the Cailleach within and be reborn.
On that note, I do want to do a guided journey with the Cailleach.
Yes.
Like, she was like, hello, what about me? I want to be present.
All right. I will go ahead and
I'm coming in. She has a blessing for everyone who is listening, whether live or on the replay. So she's going to come in. So for anyone who's not, been in sacred space with me before, I like to cast a sacred circle, and then we'll go into, it's like a guided journey. I promise it won't be that long, probably like 5 to 10 minutes, because I know we've been here a while, but I really invite you to take a couple deep breaths, really anchor in, ground in right now. And I'm going to cast the sacred circle for us. I cast this circle to create a space beyond space and time beyond time. I cast the circle to block out all energies and spirits that are not allies of ours. I cast this circle that all energies raised herein remain confined. As above, so below, as within, so without, the circle is sealed. Into the sacred space, I call the elements, earth, air, fire, and water. I call the directions, north, south, east, west, above, below, and within. I call in the ancient spirit of Eru, Ireland, to be present with us. I call upon all of the wisdom of the Celtic Isles to be here in this holy space. I call upon the Tuatha Danann, the ancient gods and goddesses of Ireland, the Cailleach, Queen Maeve, be here with us. We call upon the great fairies of Ireland, the Sidhe, be here with us in this holy space. We call upon King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, the Holy Grail, the Garden of Eden, to fill the space with love, with warmth, with light, with kindness, camaraderie, and beauty, that all of us may open heart, mind, body, and soul to the medicine, the wisdom teachings of this sacred night. And now I invite you to once more take a deep breath as we get ready for this beautiful guided journey. Like I said, it won't be too long, but just really, really open to receive. This is going to be an activation for regeneration, for deep nourishment of your spirit, of deep nourishment of heart, mind, body, and soul, all of it. So I invite you now to take a deep breath and really now feel yourself transported to time and space. And you find yourself in the most beautiful, lush green land. You look up at the sun beating down. It warms you. And there in the distance, you see beautiful trees, mountains that rise. And every step you take, you feel the majesty of Eru, Ireland, beneath your feet. And there in the distance, there is a great being coming towards you. She has a hag-like expression on her face. She is very old and weathered. When she walks, she almost stomps step by step. And as you look all around, you see there are great rocks everywhere. Every step you take, you feel you're moving back in time to the age of the ancestors. You feel something in your very bones, something hardening. You feel that you yourself, you feel old, wise. You feel all the wisdom of your soul suddenly coming forth within you. Maybe you feel your bones brittle in this moment, all of the weariness you have held, all the things that you push away, that you don't let come to the surface. Here in this moment, you feel them. And there is this being still walking towards you, this hag. Ah, but when she approaches, you see this warmth, this kindness in her eyes, this unconditional love, such as you have never seen. Behold the Cailleach, the great ancestress, great ancestor of Ireland, she who holds the power of the land within her, she who remembers it at its dawn. Take a moment to really meet her. If you have not met the Cailleach before, it's a great moment to introduce yourself. If you have met her before, take a moment to just really welcome her. Tell her, I am so glad to meet you here in this moment, and you are well met, for she is very happy to see you. Take a moment to just really take in her face, take in her expression. And now see if she has any words of wisdom, anything that she wants to say to you straight away. She invites you to walk with her. You walk with her all the way through this beautiful place, the Thru. This is one of the ancient places of Ireland, and you walk up a great and glorious hill. This is the Witch's Hill, the hill of the Cailleach. And you walk with her step by step by step up a great rocky terrain up to the top, where at the very top you see a stone throne. You walk closer and closer. The Cailleach, leading the way, invites you to take a seat. She offers you a hand up. And in this moment, you take your place on this throne. You feel the bones in your body. You feel all of that brittleness, all the things that are weighing you down. They come to the surface once more. The Cailleach takes her place beside you, takes your hand in hers, and all of a sudden there is a light, something glowing, a magic that moves from her hands to you. It swirls all around you in effervescent color. Open now, really feel this beautiful, beautiful magic that pours all around you. This moment, feel yourself renewed, reborn, all of the cares of the world, everything that you have carried with you that has weighed you down, feel it lifting. Feel this ancient magic. This is the magic of Ireland itself that she brings to you. The magic of renewal, the magic of eternity, the ever eternal nature of life itself. She is feeding you life force energy through this holy magic that moves and circulates all around you. Take a deep breath. Feel all your cares lifting. And all of a sudden, you feel something form on your crown. There is a beautiful, beautiful halo of light. The Cailleach reaches up, and she has what appears to be an actual crown for your sovereignty. Maybe you see this crown. Perhaps it is made of little, maybe it's made of berries, maybe it's made of twigs, maybe it's made of golds. Whatever you see is perfect. But the Cailleach so gently, so delicately places this on your head. And as it places on your head, feel an activation of your innate sovereignty, your ability to create life on your own terms. Feel the power flooding within you. This is the power of life, the power of the land, the power of divinity that you are. That deep power that has never been lost, that has always been part of you. And all of a sudden you see the Cailleach there before you. The magic moves over her. And there before you is no longer the hag you saw, but a woman so beautiful, so kind, your friend. Take a moment to really see her there now. Perhaps her hair is green, like the beautiful land itself. In her eyes, she looks at you, reborn, renewed. She takes your hand again, and you open to receive another transmission. Really, in this moment, open to whatever your soul, your heart most needs to receive. We call upon a gift, a blessing from the land of Ireland itself, from the Cailleach. We call upon the energy of rebirth, renewal, regeneration. Whatever you are carrying, let it go. Let it go. The Cailleach takes your hand. Feel this worry, this care melt into her. Feel your feet now against the earth. Feel the earth take this from you as you sit on this great stone throne. And now as you step off the throne, feel your body again. Suddenly you feel limber. You feel like you can move. You feel the flexibility and agility. You feel your youth again. Take a moment to feel yourself almost as that divine child, that 6-year-old, that 7-year-old with that kind of life force. Really feel this flooding through you. And the Cailleach now, she turns to you, gives you a kiss on the cheek, and wants you to remember this is your truth, that every day you have the choice to be this anew. Every day you can return to this energy. Every day you can call in life itself. Life is your friend. This renewal, she says, is ever present. Call upon me, and I shall bring it to you. Now you're invited to take one last look at the Cailleach. Maybe she has more words of wisdom for you. Just open to receive anything else she has to say. Beautiful. And now we call upon a great blessing from the Tuatha Dé Danann, from the great gods and goddesses of Ireland, from the land itself. Open heart, mind, body, and soul to receive divine blessings. You may feel this coming up from the land, or you may feel even golden raindrops pouring down from the sky. Open to receive the blessings of the ages, the blessings of true magic. Feel yourself reborn, renewed, regenerated. Feel the energy of rebirth in every cell of your body. Feel yourself renewed, reborn this day. Take one last look at the Cailleach and the rolling green hills, and feel yourself transporting back now, moving through time and space, back to the room where you first began today's magnificent journey. Feel your feet against the floor. You might want to rub your palms together. Really come back to this now moment, really anchoring in the blessings of the Cailleach, the blessings of the great gods and goddesses of Ireland. We thank all of you, everyone here present. We thank the gods and goddesses for being with us, and we send our heart love to them. And just let everyone take a couple deep breaths and really kind of come back and anchor and ground, come back. And there's no rush to return. Take as long as you need. But if anyone wants to share in the chat how that was for you, anything that came through, anything the Cailleach said, or something that you saw, feel free to put that in the chat. You know, Jeremy and I would definitely love to hear your reflections.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Oh, my pleasure.
I could feel the stone. I remember you said you've been there before as well.
I've been there before. That was like, we're going. Okay, we're going here. I'm taking them.
Yes. So the place she's speaking to is at a place called Loughcrew, or the Hill of the Cailleach, or Cailleach, and which is in County Meath, and oh, it's a gorgeous place. Gorgeous, gorgeous place. There's cairns, passage cairns all over the top of the hills there. There's three main hilltops, and they're in this geologic alignment with most of the sacred sites that stretch across the West and Central Ireland. Beautiful, beautiful place.
Yeah, thank you for giving that context. I think our audience might be shy. I don't think that they want to share their reflections, or maybe they're still in the journey, still in the magic of the Cailleach.
Mhm.
But I know we've been here a while, so I just want to thank again everyone for being here, everyone for coming. And if you've enjoyed the magic that Jeremy and I, when we come together, we really bring, I feel like, the heart and soul of the Celtic legends. And I feel there is something so sacred, so divine when we gather together in sacred space, when we tell stories. So if you are interested in going deeper with us, we do have our 4-week course, The Healing of the Grail Keepers, which starts on January 2nd. And I'm going to see if I can put that link in the chat. Let me just see if I can find it for anyone who wants to join us. Or you can just experience the magic of tonight. This is really our gift to you. This is our gift to you. We wanted to celebrate. We wanted to celebrate Yule the Celtic way. And so I'm just putting this in the chat. If anyone wants to sign up, it's going to be 4 weeks of really, really deep magic. Jeremy, I'm not sure if you want to talk about, there are very special things we'll be doing in each of the 4 weeks, if you want to share some of the structure of the course.
I feel like the most important thing to share is the recognition, just as we've kind of spoken into tonight, that we are all carriers of the sangria, the holy blood of your lineage, and that it's not a hierarchical anything. It's something that we all carry within, and it's a matter of invitation. So each of the weeks is kind of going to give us an opportunity to step into that, to first hear the call, then to like really understand, like, oh, what are some of the blockages, whether it's ancestral or mental or physical, that might get in the way of me being able to really embody that. And then the healing of that, the assuaging of that, turning darkness into light. That's what we are in this season. How do we turn darkness into light? How do we rub those two magic sticks together that Finn McCool and Oisin played with? And what are the songs that we need to sing that help us to unwind what the Irish call a gaise, a twisting of the spirit, so that we can untwist that and open the flower of our souls to once again open, and then to really step into a deeper act of service. Because truly that is the highest calling. When we find clarity, illumination, we are asked to serve. The highest king, the highest queen is one who serves. And so this is our service to you all this evening. And I think the one other thing that's really important, this is something that gets me really excited, is we all think of like the quest for the Holy Grail. The Holy Grail for the Holy Grail. I mean, we could go Monty Python. We could go Monty Python, but I'll reserve for the moment. But the essence of the quest is the quest itself. So one of the things that we'll do each week when we're all together is everyone will be tasked with a quest to complete before coming back together. Because there is, in the Celtic tradition, there is no separation between the sacred and nature. And so to stitch that together and weave that within the context of what we're doing will be an invitation to step deeper into that nature connection. And so we'll look forward to sharing in those. And we will be on those quests as well. And I think reflecting back to that first telling that I did of the Beantighe, the Gap of Dunloe, like when we align ourselves, when we follow our true dreamings, again, the Irish word, the ashleen, when we follow our true dreamings, the quest is a quest throughout life. There is not a end point, so to speak. It is the unwinding of the riddle that illuminates beauty. that illuminates sovereignty and how to be in stronger relation with ourselves and with those around us. And so we're going to have a lot of fun in January. And so we're inviting you to be a part of that fun. But either way, as Elizabeth said, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Oh, Elizabeth and I are also going to take a group of people to go over and play in Ireland in the Greenons, in the old stone castles in August, which we're very much looking forward to as well. So if you want to play with us, we'd love to have you.
I love you threw that in at the end. Yes. So just so everyone knows what we're talking about, we're actually planning on collaborating. We're going to do a trip, I think, during the Lionsgate in Ireland. So if you really want to connect with like the two of us, like we are very much excited. Well, we're going to have the course in January, but we also really want to take people to the land to go very deeply into the stories and for the stories to really come alive for you. Because there is nothing like the medicine, the magic of a story. So that's, I know that you've all experienced that here tonight. There's just so much medicine. There's so much, I feel like there's like an alchemy of the soul that takes place when you really surrender and you open heart, mind, body, and soul to what the story is saying. So just wanted to express that. But yes, we just want to thank each and every one of you, especially people who came live. Thank you so much for being part of the magic. I'm wishing you the most magical, incredible, holiday season. And I'm just sending each and every one of you so much love. I hope you have enjoyed the Celtic storytelling tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I see people have written in the chat. It's like, oh, we do have someone who wrote me a private message that they just signed up for the course. People want to play with us. So I think that's all I have to share, Jeremy. Is there anything else you want to say before we close?
Good amount. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Have a beautiful, beautiful holiday. Happy New Year. And we'll hope to see you again soon.
Lots of love. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.